Welcome back to the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This episode is once again brought to you by our friends over at Galactic Comics and Collectibles on Hammond Street in Bangor, Maine, or at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com. You can also find them on social media as well. But this episode is Ben and Max Berkowitz, also known as the Berkowitz Brothers, from the founders of Not A Billionaire, a global creative communications and marketing firm specializing in social-first content and strategic storytelling for major corporations, nonprofits, and influencers. I know that sounds like a lot, but for this episode, guess what they are? They're comic book writers. They co-wrote the two of them, along with their friend Josh Gad. They wrote The Writer over at Dark Horse Comics. The first issue is out. Second issue is out. Check those out at your local comic book shop. But they came on here to talk about The Writer and the history behind it and why it was made and how it was like to be made, so on and so forth. So take a listen to this episode with the Berkowitz brothers, Max and Ben. Before you do, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, all those things, as well as on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Subscribe, like, follow, share, all that stuff. And you can find out way more content over on capesandtights.com. But this is the Berkowitz brothers, Ben and Max, talking about The Writer at Dark Horse Comics. Enjoy, everyone. Well, welcome to the podcast. How are you two?
Doing well.
Are you doing well, Max?
Yeah, I mean, we're both on the same coast now, which is pretty crazy.
Is that the West Coast or is that or East Coast? Where are you guys located? Like, where are you situated? East Coast or West Coast?
So I'm in San Francisco now, okay. And Max is in Boston.
Yep. Boston, okay. So I'm kind of near you. We could have just done this with your office.
Yeah. Well, I just talked to Joey Esposito, who's a writer for the upcoming The Pedestrian comic book over at Magma Comics. And he lives in Bath, Maine, which is like an hour and a half from us. Yep. And I was just like, why didn't we do that? He's like, yeah, we should meet for a beer sometime. I'm like, yeah, that's probably cool. But
and then go to the Lobster Pound, because that's what we used to.
Yeah, see? But yeah, it's funny because even I record with my local comic book shop owner. Every once in a while, we do like really random movie reviews. So we did like a review of Nick Fury's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with David Hasselhoff from like the early 90s or whatever it was. So we do things like that. And he's just like a mile down the road. We still do it via Zoom because it's so much quicker. You sign on, you do the talk, and you sign off, and you don't like before or after discussions or anything like that. You do like 45 minutes an hour and you're done. So yeah, even if we were next to each other, it's not as much fun, I think, doing it in person. Nowadays.
And it's better because you get to throw up all those those makeup filters to make you look a little prettier. So
yeah, then put the eyebrows on.
I usually darken my eyebrows a bit.
Well, they had that thing too where for a little while when you put a thumb up, like the AI or whatever on the screen.
There you
go. See?
I know. I hate that because I do thumbs up all the time, and in serious meetings, it like throws everything off.
You're like in a meeting where you're like, yeah, so half of you guys are getting laid off, and you're over here like,
right,
and it's explosions.
And Ben,
someone has died.
Yeah. Ben finally taught me that like I can shrink my screen so I don't need to look at myself the whole time.
I think it was half the time I have little like notes here on the screen that I usually like put in front of my face so that I don't see myself and be like, why do I look like that? No. But yeah, so you guys are you from Boston? Like, is that where you originated? Was Boston?
Yeah,
we're from right outside Boston.
Oh, but
but we tell everyone we're from Boston because when you say we grew up in Wellesley, Mass, there's just like a different expectation that comes with that. But right now our family lives in the heart of Boston, across from Fenway Park.
I lived in Andover, Massachusetts for like 10 years, and I would always tell people, like anybody like not from New England, I'd be like, yeah, it's just Boston. Like, just so it's easier. It's 35 minutes from Boston, but still, it's just easier to say Boston.
Yeah, I mean, and like nobody knows like really, I mean, Wellesley, Mass, except for like Wellesley College, and they always associate with, Hillary Clinton.
Wait, what about Sylvia Plath? That's where
Sylvia Plath. That's a good one, and that's a good connection to The Writer.
Yeah, exactly. Not a good ending for her, but
no. Hopefully ours will be a little better.
But yeah, Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, so like you from, so it's pretty cool. I love talking to people from New England, and it's very weird. I liked it, but I don't like it because sometimes you get into conversations where like, oh, you know that sandwich shop down the street, and people like in the West Coast are like, I have no idea what you're talking about, never been there. And so it's nice to talk to people that kind of get some references from New England, but in the same sense, let's not go too far into it because unless you're talking about the Celtics, which I'm very pumped about this shirt that's going on right there, our world champion Celtics here, and or I mean, there's a little reference to the Red Sox in the writer, which is it not? It's not really the Red Sox. Let's get that clear so you don't get in trouble here.
Exactly, and we may have given a little origin story to a Red Sox mascot that is also unofficial. So we'll see how that goes over. We have, like, in full transparency, we did speak with the Red Sox, and they
They're
loved
lovely.
everything
Yeah.
red. But yeah.
We well, you have a background too, right? You worked with NESN and stuff like that too, so that does there's a connection there. But before I did this, I worked in sports journalism a little bit too. I did mostly Hockey East and college hockey. I covered some of the Bruins here and there and stuff like that too. But like when I was a graphic designer in Massachusetts, I actually when someone stole Wally, do you remember this when they stole the mascot? I created just a quick like 10-second wanted poster or missing poster, I should say, for Wally, and then NESN used that as like a thing on their Twitter and stuff like that. It was like a highlight of my life at the time.
That's amazing.
And so I think I still have like a save somewhere, but it was just a picture. It was like black and white. It was a picture of Wally. It just said missing on it. I made up some like weight, height, and weight or something like that on it, and they ended up finding it like shortly after they posted it, and they're like, well, maybe we'll say it helped get the mascot back. We'll use your image as that. It was my reasoning.
You're gonna have to, like, in post after this, you're gonna have to put that up for everyone to see.
I can, yes, if I can find it, but that's kind of funny. I noticed it. I said, like I mentioned in the review, is that I saw that there. And I was like, that's amazing. And some other people might not get it. People who are not huge Red Sox fans or huge New England fans, they may not understand the little reference there. But I like the little hat tip, and it was great. But before we go too far into the writer and stuff like that, I mean, you guys work in all kinds of different mediums and things like that. And so this story was obviously an important story for you to tell. Before we get too far, does someone want to give a kind of like elevator pitch? I hate that term, but like of what the writer is before we go too far into this?
I'll let the older brother do it then.
Older brother, yeah. But what's funny is that everyone recently has been saying we're either twins or I'm the younger one.
No, that's not true. Well, that's because I cut my hair, I shaved it, I look young again. I'm good.
I guess, kind of the elevator pitch of what the writer is. Max and I, we had seen this, this trend where Jewish identity in comic books was kind of getting erased or put on the back burner when these characters made the jump from page to screen. And there were shows like Moon Knight, which, I thought was a great show, but I think they kind of did a little bit of a disservice to his Jewish identity. His father is a Holocaust survivor and a rabbi, and that played a pretty big part of his kind of character and his journey. And in the show, they kind of remove that. Yeah. And so it was really important for us to, we kind of evaluated it and we're like, you know what? We need to create a story that's representative of Jewish identity, Jewish experience. And there are a lot out there. There are a lot of great storytellers telling like Jewish stories. We wanted to tell something that wasn't niche, and something that was dynamic, that kind of showed the spectrum of Jewish identity. And so we were like, one, who could be a superhero? Who could be a Jewish superhero? Of course, we were like, Josh Gad. Like, why not? First of all, he's amazing. He's a Disney legend. So let's turn him into a comic book legend. So we pitched him this concept, and he kind of, he fell in love, and he also felt this sort of gravitation towards like the Jewish experience not being told as properly, even though Jews historically have kind of built the comic book industry. So which was kind of interesting. So we tapped into this idea of exploring Jewish folklore, mythology that hadn't really been, tapped into in both comics and film and TV. You've seen sort of Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. That's very much, a story from like the Torah. But we wanted to push that even further. So, one of our biggest inspirations in comic books is Mike Mignola. He does a phenomenal job of taking folklore and kind of like putting his own spin on it. And so we took Jewish folklore and really wanted to like make it less niche, more commercially driven. And we put our own spin on these, stories that have been around for thousands of years. So we tied, for example, the origin story of quote unquote Wally the Green Monster, which people will meet in issue 2, spoiler alert, to sort of this blend of Jewish folktales. So we built this story around like kind of the idea of the Jewish experience, our Jewish experience, Jewish folklore mythology, and also the importance of words. In Judaism, words are incredibly important. They have, the meaning, they have the ability to change how we think and change our experience and reality. So we took that concept literally, where our character, his power is to write down a superpower on a piece of paper, eat it, and gain that power temporarily. So he literally has the ability to take words and change reality. So that's kind of, where we are with the story, and hopefully people are enjoying it so far. Max, do you want to add anything?
And I mean, we both love comics, but I really, really, really love sports. Ben loves playing it, but I love watching it. So we needed to add this to the comics, because in Boston, everyone talks about sports. Like in DC, they talk about politics, but sports is life in Boston. So you're going to see a lot more of baseball in this comic.
It's true. I mean, did you feel any like you had to tell the story, but like did you feel like it's a risk, because it is kind of like it's very personal to you too? Like it's like in Josh too, like is this like if people didn't like it? I know it's not, it's like everybody wants someone to like everything, and obviously everybody doesn't like certain things and so on and so forth, but like this seems like a very personal story as well. So like was it difficult to try to put this out there for people, or is this just what you guys do now, put things out there and just hopefully people like it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Max and I have kind of, over the years, developed this attitude where, we're like, we want to do things that we enjoy, that we like, and, hopefully people will like it. If they don't, we have to push it. Because we did this. What?
We look at everything. We see everything.
Yeah. We see everything, but we do this for ourselves. Like Josh and Max and I and Ariel, we do this work because we love it, and because we enjoy it. And yes, it is personal, but hopefully people will get it. And what we love is that we built into this story kind of like our own journey. This is our first time writing a comic book. So we sort of built that into the characters and the story, how it moves along from issue to issue. So hopefully that will come across and people will get that, a writer's journey and exploration as they kind of dive in to moving from drafts, from ideas, and
It doesn't seem like you guys, this is your first comic book. I'll tell you that much. Like, it's a good sign. I mean, because it is obvious, I think, sometimes. I mean, you guys work with mostly TV, film, stuff like that. And so not everybody can cross mediums like that. Like there's even authors out there who have written comic books, and you're like, stick to the prose side of things. It's not, but like when I read this book, it wasn't like, oh, these are first time comic book writers. Like this is definitely, they don't know but I do think coming from TV and film to comics is slightly easier, in my opinion, than coming from books or novels to comics, because it's a visual medium as well. And you have to like set up the next page by like not giving away the thing on the next page at the bottom corner of the first page. Like there is some things where you guys, the scripting is well done to a point where I wouldn't, if I didn't know this already, I wouldn't be like, this is their first comic. I will give you guys credit on that.
Getting emotional. That gonna make me cry. No, and I think you're right. I mean, this was definitely a learning process for all of us. We were so lucky to have the brilliant Ariel Olivetti, who was very much, a guiding hand through this process. But yeah, from kind of like moving from, film and TV into comic books, it's like in comic books, you're working in individual frames of video, but like each frame, the mise en scène has to tell so much story. So yeah, they're definitely like my brain, all of our brains kind of had to like make a huge shift to work on this, but which wasn't easy, but no, thank you. Thank you.
And was it the plan from the beginning to make the character look like Josh Gad? Like, I mean, is that like, I know you reached out to him, but like, and obviously he's helping you write this stuff with you guys, but like, was it originally a plan? I mean, we've seen this recently over at Boom Studios with Keanu Reeves looks like Berserker, like it looks like him. It's like obvious that it's him. And I'm like, first of all, I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, comic book creators nowadays, if you make yourself look like the character, the studios who option your comic kind of have to go with you as the star. So now, obviously, if this gets optioned as a film or a TV, obviously we have to now hire Josh as the main character. We can't go away from that.
Well, we kind of took that. Yeah. We had to. No, we saw that trend, and and Whoopi Goldberg just, she has the change, but we kind of, made it a little bit of a satire, because you'll have to read, you'll see the whole book, you'll have to get through it, but there is a very specific reason why we chose to make him look like Josh and almost be Josh. And it's not so much to do with making this a TV show or a film, but sort of a commentary on that trend in comic books with celebrities.
And you can see his look changes a little bit, but I won't go too far into it.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know. Like even in issue 1, the character starts to subtly change a little bit how he looks.
A bit more jacked.
There you go. It's illustration. You can make him look however you want to make him look, honestly.
And Josh made the joke to Patton when we did a signing recently at Golden Apple. And Josh was like, look, I get fatter in every page. Which is actually not true. It's the opposite.
I don't think eating paper is a lot of calories. I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. It is kind of funny. The eating the thing is awesome. I love that aspect of it too. But yeah, I know. And the same thing, it's Patton too. It's like, it's also a thing of like, comics are for everybody, in my opinion. And I hate when people were all up in arms that Post Malone was going to start writing comic books for a Blaze, or was it Blaze or whoever it was. And people are like, oh, he shouldn't be going to stick to music. And I'm like, no, this is truthful matters. If you do it right and you have the right partners and you have the right publisher and things like that, I feel like, I don't think it hurt your sales of this comic book because Josh's name was on it. Like, I don't think that's like when people are like, oh, screw Josh Gad, he's just Olaf. Like they actually, there's people who probably bought it because they may not know who the Berkowitz brothers were, but like they know the name Josh Gad. And the same thing, recently, David Desmalchin has comic books over at Dark Horse and things like that too. I think that it's a positive thing. Not that that's what your plan was. Not that we were like, oh, we could probably sell more comics if Josh's name was on it. But like, I don't think it hurts. And I think that letting people tell stories in comics that are good. I absolutely loved this story as you both know after reading a review of it and stuff. But I think a lot of other people do too, and I think that's a thing, and I think that's worth saying that if you want to do comics, do the right story and do the right publisher and have the right team and do comics. So if Josh wants to join up with you guys and do comics, then do it. And so I think that's awesome. And I think that, putting the hard work and effort into it and doing these interviews like this, hopefully people will learn who you two are as well, more in the comic book world. Hopefully there's more coming from you guys.
Don't do a deep dive into our background.
Yeah, please don't. It's scary.
Yeah. Max has too many dark secrets.
But Justin, it's a labor of love. Like bringing on someone like Josh means it takes longer to come out.
Yes.
Because you got to work around their schedule and write with them. So it's not easier.
Yes.
I mean, he's an incredibly creative person, but it definitely takes longer because of their
sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, we all love comic books, and I think whatever gets more audiences to buy comic books, like not just ours, but all other comic books in general. I think that's our goal with all of this. So if you have a story to tell it in comics.
And Josh, yourselves and Josh and your rest of your creative team and all the other people that are out there publishing comics want to tell stories. And this is another medium to tell stories in. I don't think I said multiple times on recording podcasts where like, you can't sit there, and hopefully for you guys' benefit, people are sitting there and just watching TV and film, but like, you can't just sit there and watch TV and film. So like, how do you supplement that? And I think that great stories in literature, great stories in comics, great stories in other formats, podcasts, whatever it may be, you need these. And I think that this is just another avenue. This could have worked straight to TV or movie. Like this could have probably been okay on that. It would have worked. I think the visualizations on it would look cool on TV and movie, but I think it works great for comic book format. I think that I may have not seen it. I might have missed it if it was on TV, but because it was in comic books, and I do get the emails from Dark Horse and they're like, hey, this is coming out. I was like, I'll give this a shot. And I gave it a shot. I was very happy I did. But like, I think having another medium to tell stories in is just a great avenue, whether this is the only comic book you two ever write in comics, whatever. I think it was a success already. So, hopefully you guys write more, but like, we'll see.
we've got a few others cooking. So, we've kind of like fallen in love with this process. Personally, I like it more than filmmaking, but
there's tons of money in it, guys. I'll tell you that right now.
Well,
I don't know if anyone can sense my sarcasm in that, but
I sense it. We understand.
Everyone asks us that. Like, how much are you guys making from this?
Yeah.
You mean how much are we spending on it? Is that what you're asking? How much are we spending on it? No, it's true. And it's one of those things that people say the same thing about podcasts. Again, like there's like 10 podcasters in the world that like make a ton of money on podcasts, and the rest of everybody like makes do, and then everybody below that has to work a second job. And it's the same thing in comic book industry. It's like you get a name for yourself and you're fine, but like the people in the middle there, you're just making comics and having fun. And then there's people who are starting out being like, I have to work a second job to do this. Like when I contact people to interview them, and someone responds back to me and says, well, I could do it at 7 o'clock at night because I have a day job. And I'm like, that's the way the world works most of the time in comic book industry. There's your thumb. Your thumbs up there. I don't know where that came from.
It's mine.
It was the Zoom telling me I'm saying something nice about you guys. No, but yeah, it is a labor of love. And like you said, I think that's great. I think it's a cool thing, but I think that you both know that you guys couldn't do just comics right now only.
No, and I think what's interesting is like a lot of people, I didn't even know this going in, is that a lot of creators, most creators, if not all, like everything is on them, from like the writing to the creative to the marketing, everything. I mean, the publisher is wonderful and supportive and does a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it is on us to make sure that people see the thing. And yeah, Max and I, we have our day jobs, we run our company, and we did a lot of this writing, after I put my kids to bed, and we're up till 1 and then wake up the next day at 6. So this is definitely a labor of love, and I hope it comes across.
It's one of those I think that I will say it is confusing. It's called The Writer because I feel like every time I write down that you're the co-writers of this book called The Writer, it's like, geez, like, can you write the word writer in? Don't use that as an SEO term. It's going to come up on everything. But no, it came up. I think I saw it the first time in the previous catalog for Diamond, and it caught my attention. I think the cover caught my attention. I'm a huge Jeremy Hahn fan, so that also didn't hurt at all. Jeremy is an absolutely wonderful artist, but also a wonderful writer, so that's pretty cool too. But like Jeremy's artwork was just phenomenal on the cover. I think that the simplicity of it too, and having your main protagonist character right there on the cover was an awesome thing. And so that called me into it. Then I love Dark Horse and all that stuff. So like, and I will say Josh's name helps me want to pick it up and say, who the heck is what's this going on? Because I honestly hadn't heard about you two yet, which is okay. Because it's not like
that's been my favorite. It's like, who the hell are the Berkowitz brothers?
They're behind the scenes. You didn't realize that they're like running the country now.
Yeah.
Oh God.
No, you don't want that. No one wants that. But no, no one wants to do that. No one wants you to do that either. I'll tell you that right now. I barely know you guys yet, but no one wants you to do that.
Come on.
But yeah, it's all that stuff together. And then, when I reached out about doing this, with Dark Horse, and things obviously moved differently than we wanted them to. But now that we're here, I don't know. It was just a unique comic book, and I think that's a big thing. I also think that with you guys are telling a story about a superhero, really. When if you boil it down, it's a superhero story, but it's not your typical superhero story, and it's actually hard to write a superhero story when you're not working for DC or Marvel. I don't think people take him as seriously. I don't think that they're like, if I'm going to read a superhero story, I might as well just read, Spider-Man or Batman or Superman. They're like, eh. But this does something differently for me, and I think that's a big reason why being at Dark Horse and having them as your publisher gives you some freedom to do whatever you want. You don't have any backstory that you have to, like, continuity wise, you have to stick to. And you guys were able to tell your own story and put a spin on it that made it unique. And I think that's big in comic books right now, that there's a lot of the same, even in horror comic books and all that stuff. It's just the same thing being turned out with different filters on it. This is different. And I love that about it. That's the number one thing I love about it, honestly.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think, that was also, one of our goals is to create, a character or a group of characters that felt unique and genuine to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we very much inserted our own family into this book. Yep. The mother character is literally our mother. So she doesn't own a gun, but she
does drink a lot of coffee.
So we wanted to bring like that sort of authenticity to this, and not make it like characters who have to just like who suit up, and it's a satire of this. We love the boys. We're obsessed with minor threats, of course, but again, we wanted to kind of like bring our sort of experience and journey into this. And I think, and like, again, I like the mother character who I love because we have to love, it's our mother. She's also
have to love her, Ben.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Well, you have to say you do on TV or podcast. You have to say it out loud. You do.
No, we do. We do.
Yeah. We love you, Liz. But yeah, and like we added in like into the backstory of this character that she's also a cancer survivor, which our mother is, and so there are certain elements like that we're hoping that it sort of differentiates us a little bit. Yeah.
And like the character in the book, our mom is not afraid to say what's on her mind at all. She literally is the female version of Larry David.
Yeah. Yep. And she drinks a lot of coffee.
Oh, I'm not kidding. I think she might drink like 8 cups a day.
More.
I just spoke earlier about having me to drive from Massachusetts back up to Maine, and I was like, I had way too much coffee, and I had like an upset stomach to the point. Like I drink quite a bit of coffee, but I was like, I don't know what it was. I was like, didn't eat or whatever. And it was like espresso, like one of those cans of Starbucks espresso. Like, and it was just like, I was like, oh my God, I haven't felt like this since I drank too much the last time. Like,
you're in New England. Why isn't it Dunkin'?
I make coffee at home. There's that. I don't, but I will say I don't like busyness of people. Like I don't like going into stores and like restaurants and being like, oh my God, it's packed in here. And every Starbucks or every Dunkin' Donuts in New England has a line, and every, there's no,
Yeah.
and I have also, this is not just a Dunkin' Donuts problem. This is a problem with fast food in any restaurant. Customer service has gone like drastically downhill in the past like 10 years that like, or 5 years, that to the point where like you stand at the front counter and no one even says hi to you for 5 minutes in there. So I don't like going in, but like when you go to like a gas station, you can buy like the espresso in a little can from Starbucks, which is a lot better than any pre-made Dunkin' Donuts brand. So
I just like going into Starbucks to see what name they'll put on my cup, because it's never my name.
I always thought that no matter where you guys are, what's going on, they always just write the Berkowitz Brothers on everything.
Oh yeah.
You guys aren't separate people. You are actually one entity, and everything is just the Berkowitz Brothers. Or
always.
Like,
I even talk for Max most of the time.
Oh, thanks, Ben.
See, my family, we like to talk a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I have a podcast. But like my older brother likes to talk and then like over talk, so like he just talks over you and then says, so you can't say anything. So at a family function, it's just like he's there and we're all just there, even though we all like to talk. So it's an interesting thing. So yeah, see, this is a good dynamic right here.
In person, I'm the one who talks more, and then on these Zooms, Ben talks so much, but it's okay.
Were you mostly on like on screen journalism, or was this like behind the scenes? So you did talk on screen. You're very good on camera. Yeah.
And also we did like live events too.
Okay.
Where I like talk in front of like 300 people, and I love it. It's just Zooms. I don't get it. I'm just looking at myself the whole time.
No time. You're like, oh crap, there's a pimple there. Oh crap.
Oh, God.
They haven't touched up my appearance thing on this, but it's pretty. I don't know how that works, but you can touch your appearance up.
You look great.
No, it's funny how you keep mentioning minor threats. I think that's another with Patton coming into the industry of comics. Patton, absolutely not saying you guys don't like comic books, but that's one thing I think I always said about people, and they judge the whole, why is someone like Patton writing comic books? I say that guy loves more comic books, I think, more than I like comic books, and that's like he has multiple facets to his career, and comic books are like, if he could just write comic books or be in comic book things, I think it's all he would do, honestly.
I mean, Patton and Jordan are just,
yes.
They're brilliant, and the world they've created is just next level. But yeah,
is there going to be a writer minor threats crossover?
There's going to be a Jewish deli in minor threats.
That's the dream.
We were talking.
No one says it can't happen. Like, this is like one of those things that like, it's not even like you're at two different publishers. Like, they're literally at the same publisher, and so they can. There's no reason why this can't happen, unless it can happen tomorrow. But there's no reason this couldn't happen at some point, where you have these characters, show up in minor threats and a part of their universe now. You could do a multiverse episode or issue, I should say. We're planning things here. Don't steal our ideas. No, it's out there in the ether now. I can't do anything about it. But yeah, so comic books you mentioned comic books earlier. I wanted to get actually into that too, really quickly, is that you always been comic book fans? Like, since you were younger, like when you guys were hanging out at home, would you guys collect comics and read comics as kids? Or has this been something that came up later in life? Or
I have always been into comics. I got Max into comics. He was very much, more of a sports person. I mean, you can see, like, look, I got my Magneto helmet in my hands right here. Of course, one of the.
And downstairs you have the Bob Kane Batman with the signature.
Yep, we have a Bob Kane original print downstairs that was given to our parents when I was born.
Oh, wow.
Yes, our family ran a restaurant, and one of the customers gave it to my dad as like a little gift. But yeah, I mean, we've kind of always been into comics. Like, I remember, growing up, every Friday we would go to our Papa and Nana's house. We would sit in front of the TV while my Papa would sit behind us in his chair, and he would draw. My Nana would play cards. Or read a book, and Max and I would be drawing and talking about like superheroes, Superman, Batman, and that was, I can't even remember. I think and I still have a comic book I made in first grade. That's terrible, but yeah, we've always loved it. And like, yeah, my wife keeps telling me that I need to stop buying action figures.
They take up a lot of room. I mean, single issues
They
of comic
do.
books take up room too, but like they're at least flat. I mean, action figures take up space, man. Like
So much space.
But sort
I'm
of
surprised my shelf hasn't fallen over. There are it probably will during this interview. So if I sign off, it's going to collapse.
But there's also sports memorabilia that takes up space too. So like it's just like some of us have just this collecting mindset. If it's not one thing, it'll be another. You could be collecting crack pipes. Who knows? Like,
is there sports memorabilia in your background?
There's not. I've got a Mickey Ward signed garden gnome.
I was supposed to interview him.
I used to cover the Lowell Spinners. It was one of my teams that I covered as a beat writer, and they did a Mickey Ward was there signing things, and they did a garden gnome night with it's just Mickey Ward basically with this fist up and it had a garden gnome kind of thing. And most of my sports memorabilia is not. I got jerseys over here. I got a Muggsy Bogues signed jersey, and a Nate Archibald signed jersey. They're around the corner. But yeah, I was humongous into sports and in the comic books. So like that there wasn't very many people that I know that crossed over. It was like one or the other. You were a nerd or you were an athlete kind of thing, and having the crossover was big for me. So yeah, I have a Mookie Betts signed bat that Mookie game used that he gave me when I was covering the Spinners too. Rest in peace to the Spinners, because the Spinners don't exist anymore. But yeah, so I have some, but most of it's comic book related or beer related, because I obviously design beer labels too. But yeah, the Mickey Ward thing. I got Dogman here from the Spinners.
Oh, nice.
Let's see it. Oh, that's amazing.
It's got like real mustache hair, like it's actually like furry.
No, it's not.
But yeah. The Dogman. If anybody doesn't know, again, this is a very like ultra like it's regionalized, but like Dogman was the equipment manager or something like that for the Spinners for many years, and he was always the guy that he'd bark ruff 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 or walking around Dogman. But yeah, I mean, sports is one of those things that like it doesn't have that much of a crossover, and I do like this ability to have this in this comic book too, because like there is that crossover between the two worlds that there isn't much, but when there is that, it's really cool to me. And maybe that's why, not saying that I'm the only one that this comic book resonated with. Hopefully it resonated with a lot of people, but hopefully that's another reason why you have your Josh Gad, your guys, the Jewish folklore, the superhero, there's like so many multiple facets to this comic book that were in one single issue so far. I mean, obviously, as we record this, the second issue has now come out. Hopefully people have read it. But there's so much going on in a good way, and it's paced well. And I think people can get a lot out of it. There's going to be, but I also think it can be polarizing. I think there are going to be some people who just don't like it, which don't visit comicbookroundup.com. That's one thing I will say to people who are writers and creators of comic books.
I've just refreshed it again.
Yeah,
that like not that now our reviews are on there, so I like to have that, but like the creators should not be reading these things, because it's just like it gets you so like I get depressed in comic books that I like that people don't like, and I'm not even having anything to do with it. I just talk about it. And but yeah, go ahead.
You know what's
like Adam Sandler movies, like they don't have great Rotten Tomato reviews, but we all love them. Yeah.
Yes, but Adam Sandler's also making millions and millions of dollars to make those movies.
True.
So he's feeling good. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he's sleeping at night on his bed of money, so it's fine.
I've actually loved, like, there have been like some great responses to the comic book, a lot. But I've actually really loved some of like the really intensely negative responses to it, which, because they pointed out exactly what we wanted them to point out. So I just like, I kind of chuckle, and when I read some of those, but and I'm also grateful that people are taking the time to give us these like in-depth responses. So that's also kind of meaningful. Like, if it's bad, if it's good, it's all great to me. I mean, does it give me, heart palpitations reading?
You call me every minute once we get one. Yes.
Yeah.
You have a Google alert set up for all of them, and it just comes up. You're like, oh god. No,
it's these Berkowitzes are dumb.
It's just funny because it's not. I don't know. I feel like part of it is there's so many comics out there that to pick up a book that you might not like and read is one of those ones where I'm like, I always feel bad when I'm like, oh, I haven't given a 1-star review ever before. But it's like, I don't think that I would pick up a book that's a 1-star review, in my opinion, because I don't think from the outset of reading this synopsis, cover art, all that stuff, that I probably wouldn't even just read it. I just ignore it. That's not my, whatever. But there is one of those ones that goes from the possibility of being a mediocre comic book to an excellent comic book. And I think that that's where most of my comic reviews lie in there. That's part where it's like, I could have taken it or leaving it, or I want more. And I think that the writer definitely fits in the I want more category, because I want to know where the story goes and where it progresses and so on and so forth. It can happen the other way, though. It can be so bad that you want to know, like, can they save this? Can they figure this out in issues 2 and 3 to be like, okay, that was just an issue? But yeah, I think that I also believe in with things that are serialized like this, where a comic book or a TV show, is that you can't judge an entire series based on the first comic book. You guys did set the footing well. I think you set the stage well for what's to come, but I think that you need the whole picture. I think you need at least 3 or 4 issues or 2 or 3 issues to get into and go, okay, whether you like it or not. So it's kind of hard to judge it on one issue. So hopefully the people who did not like issue 1 will pick up issue 2 or 3 and go, okay, maybe I'll go back and revisit this in the long run. But I've just too many people where I'm like, you got to watch The Walking Dead. And they're like, yeah, I watched the first episode. It wasn't very good. I'm like, no, you got to watch. The first season's only 6 episodes. Just watch the 6 episodes, then tell me you don't like it.
There's so many shows where the first couple episodes are slow, and then it really heats up.
Yeah. So. And like, do we wish we had a couple more issues to flesh out this story?
Yeah.
Sure.
You mean pages or okay, yeah.
Yeah, pages.
Pages too. Some comics get more pages per issue.
Yeah. But I will say, though, nowadays that people do shop with their wallets and don't associate pages with cost. And so, like, when you go into a comic book store and it's like $5.99 for issue 1, even though it's a 47-page issue, 50-page issue, they don't. The average comic book purchaser doesn't connect the 2 dots. Okay, I'm getting 2 issues in this one book. That's why it's $6. But so a $3.99 cover price for this first issue honestly does probably pretty well, because someone's like, oh, the only comic books that are cheaper than $3.99 now is Todd McFarlane's Spawn universe, which is $2.99, just because he's been keeping it that price forever. But yeah, so $3.99 is like, the people were like, okay, that's good. They don't realize that it's a 22-page issue. It's just the normal going rate or whatever it is. And so having it any higher than that, even if there's more pages, may have not had people purchase issue 1, which could be a bad side. So I don't know. Doesn't work equally. It's like a $4.99 book doesn't always the same number of pages more. So I don't know how that exactly works, but a $3.99 book is a perfect spot, in my opinion, anyway. So.
No, and we would prefer people, of course, buy the physical book.
Yes.
Because I always love holding it, but I think it's still going on. There's like an Amazon Kindle special going on for $1.99 for issue 1. Just to get people in. I think that's awesome. So yeah. And
some people trade wait. Some people will wait for the whole thing to come out and trade paperback. And I think that that's an understandable thing, in my opinion, too. I do have trades over here as well as floppies, but I'm usually the kind of the insane person who buys floppies, and if I really like the book, I'll buy the trade too, which is
that's how I am.
And it also works that my wife laughs at me because anything that one of our quotes has been pulled on and put on the back of the book to like sell the book, I buy that trade. And she's like, you have all the issues, you got the free copies for the review, why are you buying this? I'm like, because I want to collect it. And they're smart, because they just got one extra purchase copy by putting our review on the back of the book, and that's all it matters. That's what the publisher's thinking, like, okay, if we put this on there, who's gonna buy the book if I put this on the back? Oh, that guy. Okay, we'll put that on there. One more sale for you guys. But yeah, so I get just distracted here and all over the place today. But yeah, so you are not comic book creators, but now you are. Are you excited now that people have read the book? I did look on the user, like there's the reviews from Comic Book Roundup. That's like the press, and then there's the consumer side of things, and those are all mostly hugely positive. So that's the important thing, is the people that are buying your comic book. Are you excited and happy to see people out there who purchased the comic book that like the book?
Well, I'm excited and happy that it's over with, that Ben won't be freaking out beforehand, because he'd call me, he's like, oh, I'm so nervous about the reviews,
Well, we
do.
didn't do it for the reviews. It's just like all of a
Yes.
sudden it catches up
I
with
know, but
you.
your first
Uh,
time, you're
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
gonna
Yes.
be
Yes.
like,
Yes.
definitely. But I mean, like, yeah, it is uh, the coolest thing in the world to now be able to call ourselves comic book creators. I think almost more so than like again, we love film, we work in
Yeah.
film, but for us, it's almost cooler to say we're comic book creators because it's almost harder.
Yes.
It's a much harder process.
really is.
Uh, and I don't know, at the end of the day, like even though there's like maybe less money in comic books, it's just like way more rewarding because of how dedicated readers are. Like I think comic book fans are just are some of the best and also worse, but some of the
Yes.
best
Yes.
audiences just because they're so passionate. I mean, movie,
Mhm.
it's just like movie and film and TV is just shifting so much now. But comic books are just, there's like a tried and true method to them, and just, yeah, we love readers. We are readers, and this process has just been like amazing.
Well, and I'm gonna create baseball cards for comic book writers, with their stats on it, with all the reviews and everything.
Mm.
It could work.
Business,
Your business.
business.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But so we talked about quickly as we finish up here, we talked about you two writing this comic. Obviously, you had Josh as a writing partner as well. We touched a little bit on Ariel, but like, is this something that Dark Horse connected you with? The illustrator, or is this something that you guys knew ahead of time and you did your own work? Because obviously, being newer to the comic book industry, it's not like you're just pulling from your catalog of people that you know. Is this something that Dark Horse helped you out with, or is that?
That's a really great question. So Dark Horse, they were amazing through this whole
Yeah.
creative process, and they presented us with a number of like brilliant, brilliant artists that were amazing. But for us, we kind of always had this idea that it was Ariel.
Mhm.
I've I grew up on Ariel's work. I've loved everything he's done. Brutal Nature was that comic book, just the artwork in that is insane. And in the second, I think it was the second volume, there's like an image of a dragon flying over the city with these like this elderly couple. And I was like, oh my God, this is the artist. So I actually DM'd Ariel on Instagram and sort of gave him this like two-line pitch, and we had this conversation like almost like immediately with him and his agent Delphina, who is also the loveliest human on the planet. And he was just so passionate about this. He was like, I have to do this story. So we were so lucky and grateful that someone at his talent and level who can bring like a level of like mythology um, and almost like biblical nature to his work, to this story. So it was just like the perfect fusion.
And it's funny, like the way he illustrated some of the men in the comic,
Mm.
it does look like men from Boston in the 80s, 90s with the mustaches. And like our dad had a huge mustache,
Mhm.
which it's amazing. Like every guy looks like our dad. And we didn't
We,
even
we didn't even give him that direction, and he just like threw a mustache on everyone, which we love.
it's great. It's great.
That's why it makes a perfect team. You just can read your
Yeah.
mind in a sense. Like it's fine. And I do love that Ariel's also the illustrator and colorist on it. Like there, I do like. I think there's people out there just phenomenal colorists of their own right, and so seeing them as a colorist on a comic book is great. But having that one person, it probably also streamlines some things creating the comic book. To have it be like that person's doing all of that. And then Frank Sienkiewicz, the Sienkiewicz. I always say it's I never say his last name, but the letterer Frank.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know if you saw our little Berkowitz Brothers video,
Yeah.
but I also screwed it up. So Frank is also a genius.
Frank's
like,
yes,
wait
it's
till issue 3.
And
yeah.
say the last name. Let's hear you say it.
I
Frank
can't.
There you go.
There you go. Second image. There you go. There you go. There you go. I see that because he's also the book that came out last year. Now I'm not gonna be able to remember the name of it. Book, Lost Boy by. They're in alphabetical order, so I will be able to find it. Maybe not. Oh, there it is. Also from Dark Horse, Lost Boy by Jay Martin. Frank did the lettering on this, and this is another one that's always been like key to me when I look at a graphic novel and be like, this is a great lettering job, because the true lettering job is one that you notice but you don't. And I think that's another thing with the writer is that I had to look up like who is the letterist, because that's another reason why you're going to be like they did a great job not taking away from the comic book, also adding a bunch of things to it that made it special in that sense.
I mean, just like what Frank and Ariel, they just like they would take our ideas, and like with Ariel's art, like, you know, we would imagine something as like dark and gloomy, but Ariel would totally flip that and like make this scene like sort of like bring these like bright this bright palette to it, which made it even creepier. And I love that. And then with Frank's lettering, I mean, like he's on another level. And you know, we really pushed him on this one because of the fact that this is a sort of a meta story. And so I think you'll start to see this like evolution in the lettering, even that is really exciting.
That's so exciting. And I already mentioned Jeremy Hahn with the cover issue 1, but then issues 2 and 3 are different cover artists, right?
Yes, Matt Smith is issue 2, even though I think on the website it lists Tonsi. But Matt Smith, who we've been obsessed with because of his work on Hellboy. He's also from Boston. It was really hard deciding, because he did this crazy Boston sort of landscape in one version, but we loved his cover that he did, and like Jeremy was a genius, and like got that we wanted an homage to Jack Kirby's Captain America. Jack Kirby's a huge influence on this story. And you know, Tonsi, who did cover 3. I'm obsessed with that cover, because one, I love the daughter character Izzy so much. Like her character really comes out later, and just, you know, just the swirling of the colors and everything. It just like he just nailed that for me. And Ariel's cover, just, you know, it's funny with Ariel's cover on issue 4, everyone is like, this reminds me of Page Master. And I'm like, you're clearly all millennials, which I love.
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
But they're all beautiful. I love that side of things too, because there's sometimes people just like, this is the cover artist, so they do a bunch of variant covers or whatever, but this is just like you have a different cover artist for the 4 issues so far, that like this is a unique way to bring in a bunch of different artists too, which is pretty cool. And I know Ariel would have loved to have done every cover, which we also would have loved, but you know, it was kind of, I think, important to also showcase all of these different talents. And, you know, we were just, you know, so grateful that, you know, these artists wanted to jump on this unknown book. I don't know why I didn't say, you know, the Berkowitz Brothers and Olaf at the top of it. That's offensive, I think, to people, fans of shows that know. But no, it's also like I said, it pulled me in a little bit having Jeremy Hahn as the cover artist. So I think that also might be one of those things that, like, nothing against Ariel's work, but like to me, that was like, okay, I'm a big Jeremy Hahn fan. I collect a lot of Jeremy Hahn's covers and in comics, and so Jeremy's just you know, a great person, and so that helped add that to it.
Amazing. He did a cover which was like a giant skeleton. I forget which book it was, just like sitting on a building. I can't remember which book, but I remember seeing that, and I was like, this is our guy.
I mean, I don't know. The beauty's been amazing. I loved the beauty. And then he did that whole like thing during the pandemic where he released that Hauntology thing, where he had all of his artwork in there, which was phenomenal. And so like, I don't know, there's just something about his work on Red Mother, the covers, or some of the covers of Red Mother and stuff like that are phenomenal. And so yeah, he did a Black Adam one recently too for the Night Terrors thing. But yeah, Jeremy's phenomenal, and I've appreciated more of his writing recently too, so it's kind of cool. That's another reason why seeing someone like Jerry Hahn do a cover has always been like, you haven't drawn things in a little while, so it's nice to see you get out there and do something. Some of these artists who are taking your jobs as no, I'm just kidding, as writers, they're seeing their artwork back out there is always nice to see that too. It's like I'm a big Scotty Young fan. I have a stupid fresh hat on Scotty Young tattoos, and seeing he just did Little Giant Marvels, whatever they did, one shot, and he did the cover and the entire interior in his little baby Marvel characters, and I was just like, that's amazing, because he doesn't do that, and so seeing that out there is pretty cool. So seeing Jeremy's artwork on a cover again was like, I like this. So
and speaking of tattoos, I know we're like limited.
Yeah,
this is again just to prove how much of a labor of love. I literally got the Sword of Moses recently tattooed on my arm in Hebrew calligraphy. So
there you go. See.
So,
but the thing about it is that it was a successful comic launch, I think, in my opinion. I don't know the numbers. I don't know any of that stuff. I think it was a great book. Overall, I've seen mostly positive reviews and positive talk and discussion about this. I think it's a multifaceted comic book, like I mentioned. But one of the things is that it has a meaning to it. There's a heart to it. There's a social meaning to it, too, not just a funny book thing to it. So there's a bunch that goes into it, and this will be always what you two are known for from the beginning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, from no matter what you do from this point on, it was the co-creators of the writer, and so having a tattoo is not crazy. I mean, I have a tattoo of one of my beer can labels that I've done, and someone at work the other day was like, "Oh, you have to work here forever." I'm like, not really. I mean, I've been here for 7 years. It's part of my history. So the only downside is gonna be like, if one of my owners of my business like says something super racist or sexist or something that like makes the company look bad, that's gonna be difficult for me. That was my whole, I have Stan Lee right here, and I was like, oh, all that stuff was like coming out towards the end there, and I'm like, please make it that he's not a horrible person. Please don't do that to me. But yeah, it is a labor of love, and getting a tattoo is I would call him a friend of mine now, Daniel Kraus, who's the author who also writes comic books. Got a whale on his tattoo because he released a book called Whalefall. It makes sense.
So if we write about tattoos, Ben's going to cover his whole body. That'll be great.
Yeah. Maybe we'll convince Josh. I don't think so. But
okay, here's my question: how does your mom feel about the tattoo?
Oh, she loves it. She wants him to get a sleeve. Yeah.
See, she wants a sleeve now.
She does
I don't think that will happen, but
I think she does.
They make ink blocks. You could just get the temporary ones and put a sleeve on them. That'd be amazing if she just showed up one day and she had like you're like, oh my God, and just all fake. It's all just fake temporary tattoos. And not even good temporary tattoos. They're just like one of those machines at Market Basket where you just like oh, again, another New England call out there saying Market Basket.
There you go. Good deals.
But yeah, so the first issue came out in June. We have the second issue dropped July 24th. Then there's a little bit of a gap between now and the next one, which is September 11th, I believe, right? Which the next one comes out, which is issue 3. And it's a 4-issue series or a 5-issue series?
4-issue series.
4-issue series. Yeah. So that's 5 would have been nice, but
five would have been wonderful.
And then let's talk about price though. But 4-issue miniseries also makes the trade not as expensive usually. So like there's that too. Like, you can get people to purchase your stuff. That's the main reason you do this. You're trying to make some money. You want people to read it, and I think that's one of those borderline things now. It's whether or not the material is good and the cost is good. I think that's a huge thing.
Yes. Yeah. No, and we're just so excited. I like it's funny, like everyone gets their hands on the physical copy before us. So
my girlfriend got it in Puerto Rico before everyone else, like the day before it was released, which is insane. It was at one of the stores there. It was really cool.
We got our copies like almost 2 weeks later, which is fine. We get it. But we're
this is before this is the week of Comic-Con, and so it doesn't make any sense for people like, go see you guys at Comic. Are you guys going to Comic-Con? Or are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
We are going to Comic-Con. We have a signing at the Dark Horse booth on Thursday, and then we're doing 3 panels on Friday. And one of our panels is at 12:30 to 1:30 with Josh and Ariel.
Oh, that's cool.
Which we're really excited. And then our final panel is with Brian Posehn and Nathan Hamill. Which it's about like new comic creators.
Awesome.
So we're super excited for that one. That's as well.
Awesome. So we should have said it. We should have been like, so Comic-Con was amazing, right? Because this comes out like the week, like it was wonderful,
it was
great
awesome.
trip, right?
Comic-Con was terrific. Yeah, Max got COVID, but
exactly. I feel like that's the way it works nowadays. But you know what? It's worth it nowadays. I think with traveling to something like San Diego and doing this, and going to San Diego now as creators is probably pretty cool too, because you guys could have gone, so many times if you wanted to as fans or as people there, but going there as someone who has a book out, that the book's already out, so you can sign copies and things like that. I know a number of creators who's like, awesome, my book comes out August 14th. That's amazing. I can't, my first book I can't even bring to the convention, and seeing that, having you guys do that signing there is pretty cool, and doing all that stuff is fun. So you guys are comic creators, and I am a big fan now of it. So anytime I see your names on things now, it's going to be out there. I'm going to be purchasing and grabbing that stuff, as well as anything on moving pictures and in the small screen as well. I'll keep an eye out for anything going on there. Anything you have to promote for that stuff, or is this what you're promoting right now?
Right now, I mean, we've got a lot of things we can't talk about right now. We're just kind of like focused on the writer. This is our baby, and so we're excited to be at Comic-Con. This is our first time at San Diego. We've done WonderCon, we've done New York. So to be there as a creator is it's just next level. And it also goes both ways. We're now huge fans of yours. So
So you have to come up. We've always said we do a comic. I put on a comic show in Maine. So at some point we'll actually have to kind of cool thing too, is get you back out east at some point in the future and come out and do that. Maybe when you have multiple comics, or even sooner than that. It doesn't matter to me. So we've talked to people about that, and there's a couple of people like Joey Esposito I was talking about earlier about living in Bath. He's like, yeah, dude, I just drive up and go to it. Like, it's a little different when people are from a certain area and they have to go back to it. But yeah, I love meeting creators from New England and so on. And so it's nice to see you guys living the dream. Honestly, if you guys are sitting there on your couch or on the floor drawing and writing and talking about comics, to now actually having a comic book out there that I think is amazing.
Still sitting on the floor writing and drawing. Yeah.
So I want to know when the Berkowitz Brothers cover is going to come out for one of these things. The second printing of issue 2 is going to be the Berkowitz cover.
Maybe Dark Horse will include it in the trade paperback.
There you go. Ben Bishop from Maine, who does the Turtles, working on Turtles Last Ronin stuff. He has like a subscription thing that he does sends to his fans, and one of the things he sent out was one of his original comic books reprinted. Like, he went and copied it at like Staples or whatever, and like reprinted it all and sent it out, which was pretty cool. So I actually have a copy of his really crudely drawn comic book. So hey, you never know. Bonus material in a trade would be great to see little illustrations from you two. We should include like a stick figure version in the trade paperback that you can read. You should do remarks on it too for people, like draw a little picture on the cover for extra fee, or a donation to a charity or something like that. But yeah, no, I appreciate both of you taking time out of your days to come on here and talk about your comic and so much more. Grab The Writer. Hopefully it's sold out of your comic book shop, but if it's not, grab it off the shelf there. Grab issue 2. Grab it digitally if you missed issue 1, and then grab issue 2 or whatever, or wait for the trade, whatever you need to do. But read this book. I really strongly suggest reading this book. So,
Justin, thank you so much. This was, I think, the best conversation I've had since I talked to Max, an hour ago. So,
well, I made your head really big. That's why, because I said a lot of good things about you, and that's now you can do the rest of your day with being like, at least one person likes me. No.
Yeah, exactly. But seriously, thank you so much for having us on, and please go buy The Writer.
Yes, to buy The Writer, exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.